Dictator, Donald Trump, Kim Jung-Un, 65 years in the making. We can't read exactly what President Trump was saying to Kim Jong-un there, but he is now facing the cameras. No smiles from either man, but a thank you from President Trump. And they will now go behind closed doors for that one-on-one meeting with translators. Some smiles now that they're in the corridor. The first greeting between the United States President and North Korean dictator. Guess they're getting started before they go behind closed doors, Jonathan Carl.
Unbelievable moment, George. I mean, just to look at those two individuals, those two leaders, two of the most unpredictable leaders in the world, standing together over most of the past year, George. The conversation back and forth was taunting, was personal insults, was talk of war. And there you see getting that. Now, I think what we've just seen.
Yeah, the cameras are getting together now to go inside, John. Yeah, that was tightly choreographed. The question is what will happen when they get behind those closed doors. We're going to see a minute of that. And David Muir, let me bring you in there as well. They both kept on their game faces before the cameras, and then when they got behind that pillar, you saw them both break into smiles.
Into smiles with the world watching. And I'm so curious, George, how much English Kim Jong-un actually understands. We know he was educated in Switzerland along with his brothers. We know he's a lover of Western culture, movies, James Bond, Jackie Chan, American basketball. But we do believe that the president, Kim Jong-un, will be in this room alone with only their translators. And for at least the first meeting here, a good part of that first meeting. And what's unclear is how much they'll be actually speaking in English that Kim Jong-un will understand, and perhaps it will offer some English in return.
Martha Raddatz, up until the last several months, the American who probably knew Kim Jong-un best was Dennis Rodman, the former basketball player. Mike Pompeo, though, the Secretary of State, has met with him in recent months heading up to this meeting. We also believe, though don't know for sure, that President Trump has likely talked to him over the phone, but of course this is the first face-to-face.
Exactly, and it's extraordinary. I think of the three of us in so many times in the last few months talking about a possibility of war and being on that border, that DMZ, myself a few months ago, and realizing that these are two nations that could go to war and the military preparing for that. And to see the hand on the shoulder that President Trump put on Kim Jong-un, it's quite extraordinary.
And the words that President Trump has used to describe Kim Jong-un, the ones that Kim Jong-un has used to describe the president, obviously a huge change in attitude, at least at the beginning of this meeting. We don't know exactly what's going to happen once they get behind those doors. But Martha, you just made the point. Especially after those first tests and those threats from Kim Jong-un, the military was poised for possible military action. No one was sure it wouldn't come.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things we haven't talked about much is that Kim Jong-un really stopped before the U.S. military did.
Cameras now inside the room for the president and Kim Jong-un. Let's listen in.
I feel really great. We're going to have a great discussion, and I think tremendous success. We'll be tremendously successful. And it's my honor, and we will have a terrific relationship, I have no doubt.
우리는 아직 굉장히 훌륭한 걸 믿습니다. 그리고 아직 만나게 돼서 굉장히 너무 기쁩니다. 훌륭한 관계를 가지고 있고 아직 전혀 의심 없이 좋은 관계를 우리가 맺을 거라고 생각합니다.
Well, it was not easy to get here.
우리한테는 우리 발목을 잡는 그 과거가 있고 또 그럴 땐 환경과 발행들이 우리 때로는 우리 눈과 귀를 가리우기도 했는데 우리 모든 것을 이겨내고 이 자리까지 왔습니다.
The past worked as filters on our limbs, and the old prejudices and practices worked as obstacles on our way forward, but we overcame all of them, and we are here today. That's true. What am I saying? Take care. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
And another handshake there for President Trump and Kim Jong-un. President Trump says, I don't think the leaders are going to say anything more right now.
Very good.
All right, guys, let's go.
President thanking the press right there, says he expects a very good meeting, hoping for success. Kim Jong-un saying that they've overcome obstacles to get here, looking forward to what the day can bring. David, you made the point, Kim Jong-un groomed in Switzerland for leadership, picked by his father to become his successor. And it's such a mystery to most of the world.
We know so little about him. In fact, it was the president, George, as you'll recall, just a few weeks back, saying he was just 27 years old when he took over the regime, when his father died. The president saying, say what you want, but that's not easy, especially at that age, saying, I'm not giving him credit or not giving him credit. I'm just saying it's a very hard thing to do. A moment of respect from the president for that leader. But keep in mind, this is a brutal dictator. He killed his uncle, his trusted uncle, when he believed that the uncle began plotting a coup. It's widely believed that he was behind the assassination of his brother at Kuala Lumpur airport, that nerve agent administered by those two women. And of course, millions of North Koreans back home that have faced starvation, George, food shortages, and those rolling blackouts. The fact that he's sitting here beside the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, is historic for him and a victory already.
One of the questions, Martha, read is how much of that the president will bring up, how much he will confront Kim Jong-un in this meeting on issues beyond the nuclear program.
Well, there's certainly a call for him to do that, to address those human rights issues in a big way. But President Trump, of course, wants this to be a successful meeting. You heard him say, I think it will be tremendously successful. And it is my honor to meet Kim Jong-un. That certainly stood out in his remarks. They're off to a friendly start. So far, they've gone more than a minute for sure. And President Trump said he would know within a minute whether he thought the meeting would be successful. I think it took about a minute and a half before he said he thought it would be tremendously successful. But let's go back to what we were saying a little bit before, George, and the military confrontation that we thought was so real. Our U.S. military was practicing all the time for what may come. If Kim Jong-un decided to do an atmospheric test, we probably would have had to respond in some way, or at least try to stop that in some way. But Kim Jong-un decided not to go forward with that because he already, if he doesn't now, could very quickly gain the ability to put a nuclear warhead on a missile.
Of course, if this meeting fails, that prospect of military action could come to the fore again. But for now, we've seen handshakes, we've seen smiles from both leaders, both looking confident, both hoping there will be success, meeting one-on-one now with their translators. The wider delegations will follow. We're going to stay here all night long, all through the night, with breaking reports as it warrants. The first summit between the United States president and a North Korean dictator. For all of us at ABC News, back now to our regular programming.
This has been a special report from ABC News.